Hi, Steve Hodgden from Modern Asset Management, and doing our once a month meeting where I go over what we've been up to. It's February 13th, 2019, and often mostly I talk about note investing and other that kind of stuff, but we've been drifting into talking about our real estate business. And this is the original picture of this is the original picture of 407 North, 401 North 77th, not West 77th, 401 North 77th in Pensacola. I'm always getting this wrong. And I'm going to go back here for a second. This is a 2,300, I think, thereabouts square foot ranch house on a big lot in a nice established section of Pensacola, and we're going to talk about what we did. So I try to tell what I'm doing, and this is an example of I call this "What You Don't Know Can Kill You," because this turned into a much bigger project than Eric and I anticipated. We bought the house for $97,000, which included a fee to the wholesaler. And so our all-in cost was 106 thereabouts. We put a budget together that we thought for about $50,000 we could get it going, and we ran a little high on that because we encountered a couple of problems. So we thought we were going to be all in down here at the bottom. We thought we'd be all in for $156,561. For those of you that are just jumping on, thank you very much. We just started. We are recording this, and I'll put it up on my YouTube channel. It's funny for me to say there's a YouTube channel with my name, but there's a YouTube channel called Steve Hodgdon, Hodgdon, and I put these up. They'll be up tomorrow and for all eternity after that. So we made an exit plan that we were going to sell the place for $200,000 and pay some agent commission and all that, and come down here to, I keep clicking forward, and come down to a net of about 188. And if we spent 156, we've got $31,000 to split. Decent ROI, and we wound up having to take a different path at exit because, well, we didn't have to, but we did. It was a 6-month project. Eric, was that about right?
Even longer than that, Steve.
Yeah,
about 8.
It was 8 months, yeah. And you're going to see here in pictures, and Eric's going to take the mic and tell us why it ran a little long. Excuse me. So, little house was well. Here, why don't you talk through this, Eric? Why don't you talk a little bit, and I'll click next when you say click next.
Okay. You can see the house here when we got it was lovely. I decided that this green pool wasn't really a problem. Big, huge mistake. I don't think we'll ever do a house with a pool again. After draining the pool with a large sump pump and being down the bottom of green sludge, talking to 3 different pool people, the late outcome, which you'll see a few pictures later, due to septic problems created by somebody that added this pool, due to a pool that on the bottom was totally collapsing, was to fill in the pool. And that's not a cheap or an easy or a fun process. You can see in this middle picture here, there's a little bit of trash. That's one room. 3 dumpsters came out of this house. The other thing is, don't ever get personal with the people that you're buying it from. Even though it came through a wholesaler, we met the owners and listened to the sob story and may have felt a little too bad for her in our purchasing decision. Okay, Steve, next. So you can see in the middle picture one of the dumpsters. We didn't take pictures of all the dumpsters. You can see on the left and the right the beginnings of some of our septic challenges. We actually had the septic system checked out by a company who gave it a good seal of approval. But after having nobody in the house during the renovation process except a couple of workers that didn't use any type of feminine products or anything that could really, create the standard problems you hear about with septic systems, the septic started having problems. And that's when we correlated the pool that had been put in after the septic system and not enough leach field and a lot of other things. So there's a couple of pictures. Steve, you want to share the screen with me? And I'll show a couple of fun ones.
Let's see. So I'm going to stop my share, and you should be able to take it over now.
Okay. You guys see my stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the process with dealing with the pool and collapsing the pool. Here's what the bottom of the pool looked like once we got in there, which wasn't wonderful. Just any of you that are out there, to get a pool corrected, if you have a cracked system and relined / jacked up in this area of Florida, the cheapest quote I had was $11,000, and nobody said they could do it within 2 or 3 months, just to give you an idea. The septic system. This is a fun video that everybody might get a real good kick out of. That is a septic system. That's my friend that had a backhoe that said, you're going to have to pay to get this thing cleaned, because it had to be emptied. And we thought that doing it with a bucket brigade would be really painful. Now this is a good part. Watch as he dumps, the people run. Okay, that's a little gross. Sorry about that, I couldn't resist. Here's another one of the pool and the process. All right, Steve, you can take it back, Steve, and I'll come back to the final pictures towards the end. Oh, wait, here's one more you guys got to have. Here's why people want to live in this area. Okay, take it back, Steve.
All right, let's see. All right, so we...
And I can keep talking while you're searching.
Yeah, okay.
There are several problems we encountered once we got this property. The two of them I just showed, the pool and the septic, accounted for a massive amount of money that had not been expected. We thought that the pool was going to be clean it up, shock the heck out of it, and get it back in shape. The septic was unexpected, so there was $10,000+ in unexpected costs just there to give us a worse property, a lower valued property, because we got rid of the pool. Yeah, we had a bigger yard, but we lost a pool. The last one was aluminum wiring. I've never been a big fearful person of aluminum wiring, because realtors will tell you, don't get a house with aluminum wiring. You can get insurance on houses with aluminum wiring. It's not a problem. It's always at a higher rate. But the biggest problem with aluminum wiring is the fear factor. I've talked to several electrical contractors that said it's all a bunch of hogwash, but I have seen firsthand that it can create a problem. But the biggest issue is insurance is more expensive, and realtors don't even want to show houses with aluminum wiring. Well, this house had these purple, what I thought was purple caps, which the insurance approves, and they're called Alumicons, or purple caps. And it had been supposedly redone by an electrical company. But what they put on there was a product called Ideal Twister 65s. Not the same thing, not approved by insurance. So early on, we made the decision, okay, this thing needs to get corrected and rewired. So that was another expense. So in the future, aluminum wired houses are probably going to be a no-no, or there'd be a $10,000 allowance just to make sure that the whole thing can be covered properly.
Yeah.
Those are some of the challenges and issues we ran into. Steve, you got it back.
Yeah. All right. So we got, now we've moved into shot of the kitchen, shot of the living room before we took it over, after we got it cleaned out. And we'll pop up a couple after pictures here in a little bit. But so what we wound up is we had a basic, we thought it was a basic flip on a nice looking house, and wound up having to spend nearly $30,000 or 20 plus $1,000 to take care of these big issues that we saw, that we discovered, and of course it added more time. So failed septic, aluminum wiring, pool failed. Another reason for the cost overrun is just it was a big house. We've been doing 1,000, 1,500 square foot houses, been doing custom builds on 1,800 square foot houses, and I'm finding that when I get over the 2,000 square foot number, money just evaporates. It's just that many more switch plates, many more gallons of paint, that much more tiling and flooring, and it just money just disappears. And again, the other part, the rehab was slow. We were 8 months because we had so much to do. It's also a marketplace right now because of the recent hurricane that hit Panama City, that cost of materials is up, and getting quality labor is problematic because folks are getting insurance payments, roofing and whatnot in Pensacola and Panama City. So what we did, we decided that we were going to hang on to it. So rather than go through the realtor thing, because we had a borrower in hand. We had somebody who'd been 26 months in another property paying on time, and a great lady, keeps the property that keeps the other property just immaculate, and is a real go-getter. She's an independent business person. A lot of what she does is cash, so she doesn't fit in qualifying for a standard mortgage. So to see what we could do, I took a $5,000 option fee, and for 1 year, she's been paying $1,400 a month now for 6 months, and she has a purchase price of $205,000. We're going to come up on that in 7 months, and I don't know what we're going to do, whether we extend, whether she's cleaned up her credit, whether she's able to document her income, get a standard loan, or she just stays as a renter. And the budget overrun, I didn't put a slide in for that. We thought we were going to be 156. We wound up at 173. And so just rough numbers, those of you that have a financial calculator, I plugged 173 in present value. I have a $1,400 monthly payment. I'm going to say it stays that way for 20 years. That comes back at a 7.5% return, which we can get in other places without having to do any heavy lifting. But I think that we have an exit. Well, I didn't put in the exit. I put in the exit at the same price. If I put in the exit at 173 and my all in at 173, my yield comes up to 9.7%. So I guess it's not so bad. So what I wanted to open it up to for comments is, you've seen it now. Does anybody have any experience or opinions on what you're gonna, what if this was you, what you'd be doing in another 7 months when this, or a year when this lease option comes up. So those, I'm going to exit from there. I'm going to unshare my screen. Oh, Eric, do you want to grab the screen and show a couple of completed pictures? And
Sure.
I'm opening up the chat box. And and John just asked that. John, can we see the after pictures? Yeah. Yeah, let's see the after pics first to decide what to do. Yeah, okay. And, and
Okay.
I'm going to try to double up tonight. I'm going to try to do this for a little bit. I saw Dion DePaoli came on, and we might want to take a couple minutes and maybe get 15 minutes on notes and what's going on in that world. I haven't seen that. That's not bad. That's all right.
Okay. No, that was the hall bath, and unfortunately, these pictures aren't amazing. We got cleaning items there, but that was the hall bath, little oversized tub, a nice tile. And Marcia actually, with these pictures, had already started to move in. We went with the gray theme and did gray on the doors, which really turned out pretty good. Some things lying around, but this room was opened up. That wall had been there before. And then the front ended up looking a lot better with the darker colors. I think if there's a few more in here, but they're buried behind the Panama City stuff that you wanted me to show. Here we go. There's the new huge big open room.
I don't see you. I don't see you. Go back and check your screen. Eric, go back and check. Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, when you change browser windows and stuff, it just goes away. There you go. Now
back. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, that one. And here's one, the tub again. All right, so the after picture is far better. Didn't do the most wonderful job on photos. Got to get better on doing photos too. Come on, baby. All right, you want me to show the Panama City stuff now?
If you have a couple of Panama City pictures, let's do that.
Okay.
Let people chime in the chat box if they've got ideas. And I want to give Dion a couple minutes to talk about things.
This is a house that somebody called me and said, "Oh, will you go look at this house for us? It's from a wholesaler, and they're asking only $10,000." And I went to it, and that's just one of the pictures. The other side was totally, and they were told a real great story. Oh, man, it wouldn't have been worth it if they'd given it to you. The cost just to get everything off the lot would have been so exorbitant. But let's see here.
Well, and for folks that are doing out of state investing, particularly in the low end stuff, real eyes on properties is super important. Getting your own opinions, your own photos is what you need, because the pictures that the broker is going to show you may not be the right ones. Oh, look, it's a dollar store.
Yeah. There's not much left of it. So there's some propane there if you need to do a barbecue. Okay. Giving it back to you, Steve.
Yeah. Okay. So some folks want to weigh in. Dion pokes 50 cents. Thanks, boss. So it's a house that like I said, we're all into for 170 something. It's netting. Let's see, if the gross rent's 1,400, I subtract taxes and insurance and a little tiny bit of property management. We're netting 900 a month on it. So it's like I said, it's not anything to get anybody excited about, but it's going to be there a long time. And again, that tenant could be there for a long, long time if we wanted to let that happen. and it's it's a solid house, and we know everything about it now, right? So, so anybody want to buy it? Comes with a tenant. Anybody want a turnkey rental? So, but, all right. Now, Eric, the Panama City stuff. Like we said, I'd mentioned that we've been getting work and getting work in Pensacola workers in Pensacola is tough on small projects because anybody who's got a truck ran to Panama City to chase to get paid by insurance companies. You're finding that your projects you're managing, you're having harder times keeping people on. Is that right?
That's absolutely true. A lot of people have gone over there. There's great opportunity, a lot of work, but it's a lot of hard work. But yeah, a lot of the folks in this area have definitely gone to that location. So people are far busier, and prices have gone up because of it. People wouldn't have thought that, but also real estate is slightly going up because a lot of the folks in that area have been displaced.
Yeah, so we've seen that here with the fires up in Sonoma, that people pushed out of Santa Rosa into neighboring areas, and prices and affordability continues to be a huge problem here. But you think you've got an influx of people from Panama City into Pensacola?
A huge influx. There was a big base called Tyndall Air Force Base, and the entire base housing was declared unfit, and it's now become, a lot of people say the base is closing. The base isn't closing, but the only people that are being sent there are people on unaccompanied tours because there's no housing for families. So a lot of the folks from that area are coming this direction and being relocated to other bases that are close to this area. There's two other bases called Eglin and Hurlburt. So there's been a large influx of the Air Force personnel and contractor support as well that are coming this direction. So the new housing market is really, especially in the Gulf Breeze and Navarre area, is just doing really well because there's a boatload of buyers, and there's just, there's a very limited inventory, and there's, a surplus of buyers now. So the supply and demand things it's driving prices up a little bit, but more than that, stuff is selling very, very quickly.
And so you've been mostly doing ground up construction of late, but now we're doing some other things, working on supervising those kind of projects. If you were us, and we're going to invest in that marketplace, what would you where do you think you could get something done and and turned around for a profit? What would you be working on? What would you be spending your money on?
I think new construction is a really good area to put money into in Navarre, Gulf Breeze, even Pace and Milton, just because people from those bases that are, again, I think the situation within a year or two may be resolved, but there's a huge supply problem right now for housing in that area. You get to Pensacola and it's not nearly as bad. There's a lot of realtors here that are putting out, put your house on the market now, prices are going to go up. And I think they may have gone up slightly in the Pensacola area, but to the east of us slightly. Again, that Fort Walton, Navarre, Gulf Breeze, Pace, Milton really have seen a significant increase, but again, just a reduction in the amount of supply that's out there. So it's a great area to invest.
So, all right. So we've covered that. So you still think it's new construction? I keep wanting to rehab old stuff, and that's because I don't have
the new
to
construction. It's just, I know, but it's a new construction's easier.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yep. So,
I mean, you don't have a pool that you think is good and it's not, and you don't have a septic system that's 20 or 30 years old, and it's behind the walls because you're putting them up.
Yeah, well, I'm just giving you a chance to beat me over the head with it, So, all right, cool. So, well, and I clearly must agree with that because we've got one house for sale right now, and I financed two other lots that are coming up on market here or pretty quick. So apparently I believe you. And so, all right. So let's let's see. We're about 7 o'clock. I was going to try to run this for 45, 50 minutes. Um, I'm gonna oh look, hi Bettina, and all kinds of other people have jumped on that we know. I'm gonna unmute Dion and stop my screen share, um, and let Dion let Dion talk to us a little bit about the note world.
I'm here.
Hey.
It always blows my mind how to get back into this thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we don't do this. I do this once. I do this once a month, sometimes 3 times when I'm talking. Yeah, okay. I put your picture back up there. Yeah. Right.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Am I there?
Yeah, you're there. You're the star of the show. All right.
Oh, here we go. All right. Let's start here. Okay. Can you see me?
No, we got to get Eric to close. There we are. Now we switch. Oh, we're switching towns. We're leaving Florida and we're going to Indiana.
Yeah. This is exciting. So first off, thanks for, the opportunity to spitball here. I'll just kind of set the stage. We're still figuring out a little bit of the pitch. So, forgive me that I'm ad hocing this.
Well, we're not selling anything here. We're just talking.
Yeah. All right.
And there should have been a disclaimer at the beginning is that we are not attorneys. We're not CPAs. We're not giving tax advice. We're not selling nothing. We're talking shop. Right?
Good. So here's some opportunity for everybody. So let me just kind of precipice this because there's some folks that know Steve and I and some of the history, right? So we have phased out SDXS, and SDXS has phased into a company called Prime Real Estate or Prime Commercial and Investment Real Estate. And so what I've done, just to be really quick, is I've moved the sales desk from SDXS inside a real estate brokerage company, and we are expanding our footprint. It's just been easier for me to start to be able to control assets a little bit better, having some connections to the agents that we're using and so on and so forth. So Prime Real Estate is a division of a company called Lifestyle, and Lifestyle has a multi-state footprint. We're growing every day. We're rolling up other brokerages. What that is giving us, and me and my friends, is the ability to tap into markets, source relevant agents and other resources in those markets that I can help vet through the, quote unquote, ivory tower here with our brokerage as we swallow them. Not every brokerage is going to have investment able real estate agents. So, and I can tell you from my plight, and I'm sure, many of you have struggled with the same thing. Finding an agent that understands how to work with investment real estate is not easy because there is a propensity of retail folks that want to, but the education isn't there. And so that can be a little difficult. So the point is, we're here, we're on Facebook, find us, we'll like you. We're publishing off-market REO. I've got a little snapshot of about 450 assets we're just starting to work through. These aren't all exactly real numbers because we don't have a lot of intelligence. So this is a pool, this is a tail end of an institutional pool, 430 assets, multi-state. It was centralized in the Midwest, but we have to go get physical property intelligence and sort of set pricing. So it's an interesting task, but a lot of this stuff goes out the door for huge discounts. And for everybody thinking about that, I'm happy to share anything in any of these states that you see. Great discounts. This is low-level collateral. These were foreclosures that took place. We have some title work to clean up as we trade them out. There are some land contracts that defaulted, and there's some occupancy issues. There's diamonds in the rough. I'd love to tell you exactly where they are, but I'm at like 10%. So, if you want to see what we got, I have a memo that we issue with it on how we are looking for assistance from investors. It's all going to trade for a discount. It's all for sale. All 430 have to go out. This is helping us actually bring in additional assets. So it's been a rat race for us to get up and functional from a volume standpoint that I haven't had to deal with. So
let me jump in for a second and ask a couple questions.
Yes.
The picture you've got up is the Gary map.
Yes.
You've got these aren't just in the Chicagoland area. They're
No.
And are they centralized in specific places? One of the issues that that I've had is that I had one in Phoenix, one in Orlando, one in St. Louis, and you don't get to do anything on the ground if you got one asset. You don't get anybody. You don't get a good deal from anybody local, right? And so so if you have little pools of them in places, you got 400 in Gary and 20 in St. Louis, or
Yes. So, look, you can see the population concentrations of the pool here.
I think you need to change your screen. That's
Okay.
where I was trying to guide you.
Okay. Yeah, that stuff. All right. You guys, sorry about that. Here it is. All right. So I've been scrolling this back up and down a lot.
We haven't been seeing it. All right.
Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
I can't get what you guys can see on my screen. So we have 430 assets. There's a pretty decent geographical footprint. Look, obviously these are, some of these small count, concentrations are a concern. This was a pool of 900 and some odd, 950 assets. And so we've taken on half. The seller has lost half, quite frankly. So these have to go. Taxes are current. They're just it's low level stuff. For our desk, for our trading desk, these are the areas that we've started to focus on. It's literally 2 weeks that we've really started to pump this out, and we've been using it to kind of build a sales system technology wise to help get rid of some of this with that. So it's taken me a minute, but you guys would have the first look at any of the geography that you want. We issue it with full sets of information, big discounts. Again, this is decent risk stuff, right? So there could be some gems. I'm happy to let you look.
Mm-hmm.
If you see numbers that we have, then these are where we're thinking. These are, RPR stands for Realtor Property Resource. That's an automated value mechanism, much like a Zillow, but that comes, the database is from the National Realtor Association. So this is what that algorithm brings back. We can kind of call it an ARV. This is not the sale price. It's not going to be the sale price. So, what's the sale price going to be? The way this will run, it'll be a little bit like a loan pool. We're looking for bids. We have to kind of find the right price. The investor kind of has to give us a bid. So we're here. We have stuff like this. If you want to see some of that because of the geography I'm about to talk about, great. Shoot me an email. You can find us on the Facebook webs, wherever I put that, somewhere around here. Prime Commercial and Real Estate, or Commercial and Investment Real Estate.
Okay.
All right.
So show me the Florida and the California.
I keep moving the screen, huh? Can you see it now?
We're back on the list of accounts.
Okay. Show you Florida.
Yeah. So don't show me now, but show me Florida, and then we'll see if any of that fits in what within our reach. And so.
Yeah. If you want to get a hold of me, there's the email. Right? If you don't know me.
No, that's not the email.
All right. So we're gonna move on to the other pitch here, or the other set of information. Sorry. All right. This is exciting. I'm really excited about this. So we've spent many moons putting all of this together. And
what screen do you supposed to have up?
I'm getting there again. Hold on. This thing, right? No, wait. Where'd you go? Can I not get my PowerPoint on here?
There it is.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right. All right. So, we mentioned in an episode or two before about what, this opportunity zone. I don't know if you've heard about it, but a quick down and dirty on it. This is a big deck, so we're not going to go through it all. If you want some more information, please feel free to contact me. But the moral of the story is the opportunity zone is a geographic location based upon census district that has been qualified for investment. And the investment that is made can create a substantial tax deferment and a substantial tax deferment for any given investor. Now, the interesting thing about this program is it's not just built for the high net worth investor. And so there's about 235,000 opportunity zones throughout the United States. Various states, whatever state you're in, there's probably a segment of opportunity zone in your area. That said, we believe out of all of those 235 that we have some pretty good real estate in our backyard. And I'm just kind of flowing through these screens so you guys can kind of read and listen as I chit chat, because I don't want to spend a ton of time on the slide. We're going to do another full-fledged presentation, and we'll be happy to roll it out to this audience as well. So the moral of the story is an investor can defer their capital gains. So you sell real property, you have a gain of X. You can defer the taxation on that gain by investing in a property that is located within a opportunity zone. And you can invest in both real property and you can invest in business. And I would tell you that, in my opinion, this is probably one of the largest real estate opportunities I've ever seen in my life. And the capacity and power has yet to be understood of this program. Because an investor can come in and purchase the real property. Then, you can do that on a residential stance where you're purchasing real property, you improve it, you put a renter in, boom, you're done. You can purchase commercial property. You purchase the real property, you improve it, you lease it up, you're done. You can also purchase the commercial property and maybe help with the business, because the business that's located in an opportunity zone also enjoys the same tax situation that the property would. So there's a lot of different angles to kind of attack the beast here. I'm just putting the next slide on. And what we've been focusing on is Northwest Indiana. And the reason that we've been focusing on Northwest Indiana is because we're a tertiary market, submarket of Chicago. And the Chicago, Illinois, if you don't know, has experienced some flight because of the taxation issues and so on and so forth. So we see a lot of people coming from Chicago, jumping over the border to work in Chicago, but live in Indiana because it's cheaper. It's also cheaper for businesses to exist in Indiana. Our employment tax and all the taxation is just grossly reduced when you come over the border. So we're seeing flight, we're seeing vacation from Chicago, and we're experiencing Indiana. What you're seeing in front of you with the red coloring there is this is the opportunity zone per census district in Lake County, Indiana. We're going to talk specifically about the city of Gary, which most people know, right? And I'm here to tell you that most of what you know is grossly incorrect. And when we talk about the city of Gary, it goes back to the idea that, it's a tough town. It was the murder capital of the United States for many years. By the way, the Jackson 5 came from it. And, it's one of those places that looks like Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit kind of thing, low-level assets, doesn't look like there's a lot of upside. And I don't think that's true anymore. I'm here, I'm a little attached because it's my backyard. I grew up here. Many of you know that I also lived in Florida and traded assets around the U.S. But I think this is a good opportunity. So what you're seeing is we've created this map, and I can share this map if you want, and we've started to map all of the large capital projects that are taking place in the city of Gary. And some of these are multi-billion-dollar investments. So a lot of what happens along the shoreline is industrial orientated. U.S. Steel bought the shoreline when the city of Gary was founded years ago. And actually, the city was fundamentally the corporation. And what we're seeing now is, we've seen some bad management from government. The city's had to take back a lot of stuff, like all of the other blighted areas. But these tax incentive situations are bringing a lot more capital reinvestment. And there's an opportunity for even, what I affectionately refer to as street level investors to participate in these opportunity zones, because the tax reporting is on you. It's not an investment fund. It's actually a piece of paper, and consult your tax professional. I'm not that guy, but it's a self-reporting tax deferment. So it's a 1031 for those of you that are familiar with that. It's a 1031 on steroids. You get to invest, defer your gain. If you hold the investment through a 10-year term, you will eliminate your gain. You'll still have some taxation on the gain that you deferred that you put in, but you can reduce that by 10 and 15% by holding the asset. So if you guys have been around the channel for a minute, we've been on here, we've talked about some other investments that we've done in the area. We've talked about some other investors that we've been playing with around here. We have one that owns about 140 single-family residences. That portfolio is around 95%. It's 95% Section 8, and it's 100% occupancy. And we have a 10-year that runs. We're pushing 3.6 years. So there's people want to move in. There's a need, there's a demand, but the stigma is causing some issues. And quite frankly, in my experience from being around in the distressed debt world, this is exactly where you don't want to be, where everyone else thinks it's on fire, sitting in front of the opportunity that comes in. That doesn't mean you take your life savings, you throw it in here, but there's some growth that I think you're gonna see here in a second. So we've taken the liberty to start mapping all of the things that are going on in Gary. And when I say that, much like all of the other blighted cities in the U.S., they have the residential real property that they've already taken back as soon as it populates. So that's all the residential property that the city currently owns. This is all the commercial property that the city currently owns. These are a mix of the commercial and residential properties that sit in the flood zone that the city owns. And this is all of the property that the city needs to demolish. Come on. There they are. So, when the conversation about this area comes up in Blight, a lot of people are intimidated about what goes on. And I would tell you that this city, unfortunately, is owned by itself. 70% of the people that could be here aren't here because this is what the city owns. Again, this is a lot of industrial. The corridors are on some of the street, and we see where a lot of this residential population is all missing. So what does that mean? There's opportunity here. Why? Well, I can tell you that the city's interested in liquidating everything that you see on my screen, and there's opportunities for new construction and reinvestment, revitalization. The city is selling lots for $1. The obligation for the investor that purchases that lot is that has to be redeveloped. And so what does that mean? In a lot of areas that, one of the biggest arguments for a blighted area is that the infrastructure is already in place. right? So we don't have to go out and capitalize sewer, septic, roads, or sewer, sanitary, and water and roads. That infrastructure is there, and you can kind of push back on the city or the municipality to ensure that any degraded utility system is addressed. And so my team and I have been working with the city of Gary. I'm on the government affairs committee. One of my partners is on the housing authority committee. And we believe that we have a pretty solid working relationship. And quite frankly, I'm not saying that's magic. The city wants to get rid of this stuff. And I think in some of Steve's stuff in Florida, they experience the same thing. So, you don't have to subscribe to this geography, understand the program. But, one of the things that I've discovered is the city is not good at getting rid of this. This has been an accumulation of, quite frankly, a couple decades of bad asset management. And municipalities aren't in the business of managing bad assets. And I could go into a lot of detail, but I won't. So, one of the things that I've done with the desk is I've looked at some of the two biggest players in the area of real estate and, getting to real estate that's investment worthy. And those two big players keep coming back as the institutional counterparties that we're all familiar with, the big banks and all that stuff. And that's a migration of bad debt, consolidating assets into those banks. But the second big player that nobody seems to be talking about are the municipalities. I mean, we're all scared of these areas of blight. I know that, we've got some folks that do a lot of investing in Ohio. And I guarantee if you go start, mapping some of this data, you're going to find in your backyard, in the backyard where you like to invest or whatever, is the next biggest investor that's holding real property is the municipality. And they don't know how to get rid of it. They don't have a plan. And you get the typical ideas of political, BS that we all see on TV, right? There's 16 people sitting in a room. They all have an idea and nothing ever gets done. So what we've started to do is put together a disposition package for each individual address. And we've had discussions with the city for taking out literally city blocks. And the idea there is if I take out a city block, so there's some of the best stuff up here is up on the water. This is some of the only real estate in Lake County, Indiana that sits on Lake Michigan. When I came back to the Midwest after, I've been invested in 45 different states. I still, when I see this picture, my jaw drops because this should be $1 million property. You can't get to Lake Michigan and Lake County. This is it. This is the landlocked. It's right here, right? Here's demo property, right? I mean, that gives you an idea of the values that are here. And I would tell you that, if you look at sort of, what's going on in economic development around the U.S., Chicago is, a budding city, and it's taking on the IT side of the world. So you got the West Coast, Silicon Valley, a little bit of the software side, but you're getting networking and hardware as a stay here in Chicago. So the city of Chicago, to live in the city of Chicago, you're going to have to push, quickly, $300,000 to $500,000 to start living in the city of Chicago. What are you going to do with all the college kids and, new employees or, guys that, need to be the employment fill for that? Where are they going to live? They're not going to live in Illinois. They're going to live right over the border. And I would tell you the city of Gary has figured that out with the state of Indiana. And there's a train line that runs from the city of Chicago, and it actually runs all the way over to South Bend. It's called the South Shore. And previously we only had one train, and nothing special, wasn't a great deal. Well, we've gotten federal capital and state capital that's been allocated to increase that line to 2 trains, and the commute time will now be less than or equal to the amount of time that it takes to drive. And so for $3.50 or $4, you can live in Northwest Indiana, jump on a train, go to your job in Chicago, make your $100,000 a year, and jump back on a train and come home instead of driving to Chicago and paying $60 to park for the day to go earn your income. And that, if you can't foreshadow enough, oftentimes I kind of go look for, what's the economic driver? I'd like to tell you, in my opinion, this is a huge economic driver. There's going to be, because of the nature of the way that Chicago is developing and the opportunity that is lower level asset pricing and costs, this is going to start to get gobbled up. And these people that know that are already starting to show up. Oh, come on. All right, well, I clicked it all the way, so you can catch up here. There you go. So what we are about to do from our desk is we are putting together, we have a $50 million construction company that does construction management, fully unionized license. We've been working with the trades unions in the area, developing some apprenticeship programs. Essentially, to cut to the chase, we've been working on cost to construct and diminishing that, so that there's an opportunity to get into these areas and build an affordable home that can be acquired, that will, continue to continue to support the growth that's coming over. So we've put in a lot of this turnkey mechanisms, and now we're turning to the market. It's time for us to go start gathering some investors. I'll tell you again, this is this is the first general, this is the first general sort of release of the idea and some of the data that we've put together. So we don't have it all figured out by any means. That's not what I'm pointing out, but I am pointing out that there's an opportunity here. We've developed a desk that we care. For those of you that know me, I've got some decent background with managing bad assets in bad areas, and I understand the barriers and burdens that many of us have had to get into. I became a licensed real estate agent literally 2 years ago, and the brokerage that I'm with was, this was planned, but it took a lot of conversations because I was never a big fan of real estate agents because of my experience as a mortgagee with REO, to be honest with you. It's just like nobody ever did us right, or you'd find the one guy, they do you real good in one market, and you give them the second asset and it's not the same. I support those concerns. I understand the blight. And I think one of the better opportunities here is you don't have to be, you don't have to dump a ton of dough into some of the opportunities here. So I'll give you just one more, for instance. I had a conversation with a client today, and he's a biologist and physicist. He's raised several different hydroponic farms throughout the U.S. He's developed a model to put a 3,000 to 4,000 square foot, you put a hydroponic farm into a 3,000 to 4,000 square foot building. So we actually so happen to have one at the corner of Cleveland and Ridge. So we are starting to develop that. That's a 200 from the property itself we have for sale for $140,000. The capital required for the hydroponic build out is $250,000. Could probably create some seller financing there and defer some costs. But the point is that asset, or any asset like that located in any opportunity zone throughout the United States, you could invest in the real property and enjoy that same tax deferment program, or you could invest in the business and enjoy that same tax deferment program. So again, this is a very, very exciting program that I think can tap into a lot more lower level investors. You don't have to be U.S. Steel to do an investment in this tax program. And I don't think it's being talked about enough. I really don't. It doesn't matter if you want to defer $1,000. the program lets you do that. It's your reporting. So we'll be rolling out the rest of our pitch in a format like this. I'll be happy to invite everybody that wants to share. And if you want to get some more information about programs that we have going on in geography, I'm happy to share. But we're active. We're here. If you have some assets that you want to liquidate in other markets or, whatever we can do, we're here. I'm here to support you. And I think this is going to be a good little desk for you guys to stick around and hang out with. We've got some good opportunities coming out the door over the next couple months. Was that it? Do I have more time? You want me to talk more?
No, you're way over time. You're way over time. Yeah. So as always, there's so much detail that that I'm done at like, okay, what's in it for me?
Right.
And that's so the big pieces to think about whenever you're doing out of state stuff is, as I knew and have learned, is it's control on the ground. It's making sure that if you're holding single family rentals, that the property manager isn't that they know what they're doing and they're all our goals are aligned. Gary has, like you said, the reputation, and was justified. I mean, half the town went empty, right?
Steve, I'll share this fact with you, right? So, in my discussions with the mayor, we've gotten into the history, and the quick rundown. At the peak of its population in the 1970s was 196,000 people. Right now, there's less than 30,000 residents that own real property. In fact, the real property owned by that isn't owned by the municipality is less than 70,000, and the majority of that 70,000 is investor owned. And so you can make the argument, if you really start to kind of break those metrics down, that it's inevitable. The next pushback is retail, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. and it's what that 40,000 investors that own the rentals, what they've been doing. They've been collecting, I talk about, one of my partners, Antoine, 140 assets, Section 8, probably pushes out the door 30% return on cash flow. You're buying these properties for $1, $500, you're putting 20 grand in. And, with the housing support, you're getting $1,000, $1,200 depending on the unit. Mm-hmm. There's 1,800 Section 8 vouchers left in Gary for right now for that current allotment. But I don't think that's where it is. That's where everybody turns to because that's what's from yesterday. Where the real deal is you tap into, and with our multi-state brokerage and marketing, we're pulling buyers from Chicago. That's where the money is, right? And because Section 8 it's scary, right? What do you want? You want renters that are making good income, or you want buyers that are making good income? And I would tell, if I told you this 5 years from now, it would already be too late.
Right.
That's what I'll tell you, right? Okay. It's coming. If you do your own research, I'm happy to share any of this information with anybody that wants to see it. I've only done this geography with this much data attention, but I'm happy to discuss, what we've learned. And I think we've learned a lot. I've had hours with the city. I've had hours with construction and engineering. We've already started to work with some investors on some very large investment projects that, there's a beast when you start getting into these zones. But, if you want to look, and I'm not saying, I want to precipice this. I'm not saying that, any one piece of geography will perform like any other one. But if you go look at some of the regentrifications of Detroit, the 5 boroughs, start to pick some of these blighted areas, those are where the home runs are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've seen it in Los Angeles. I've seen stuff double in Los Angeles that, you still can't walk down the street. But it's coming. It's coming.
Right.
So, yeah. So, all right.
So Steve, when maybe I said this last month, but we got more data. We did some more stuff, but we should have the capacity to put, a full-fledged presentation on for everybody, maybe 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I kind of go over this in detail. We can go through the whole deck. We're not advising you on taxation. We're sharing information with you that we've picked up from the Treasury. I've sat with a couple national law firms already. There's a lot of action on the large capital dollars in this realm. So we're happy to share that with you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, good. Yeah. So you and I dive into this maybe next week a little bit more and get me down granular so I can take this theoretical. How do I turn all this pink? Let's just take a house, right? Let's take a block. And say what happens in the neighborhood. But I see gentrification, everywhere I go these days, and because it's got to happen. Affordability is an enormous driver, and the numbers there are just just a little different than they are elsewhere. So.
Let me tag this, right? So, some of the folks that have followed you and I, they know my attitude when it comes to like seconds. And, second lien investing was something that I've always labeled as a low barrier investment, super high risk, right? The interesting thing about, taking a look at these blighted areas. So like I have an investor, he's got 4 houses that he needs to just finish up. He's been doing it. He's got a program. He needs 30 grand. 30 grand, he's got 4 houses, they'll cash flow. He can, once they're fixed, the point of the matter is the lower barrier of entry assets are here. They're in these zones. Mm-hmm. I've never been pleased with the idea of the low barrier entry through a second lien because it's too complicated. But if you can get into the real property, you got, and you want to expose yourself for 5-10 grand. These are the areas where you can do that. You got to structure the deal right. You got to protect yourself, and that's some of the stuff that, we've talked about with seller financing and equitable structures and stuff. But there's opportunity for every level of investor. Again, I'm staring at a house that, one of my guys, he needs 5 grand for, right? But this is what they've done. To some extent, they've a little overextended themselves, but that's an opportunity for, investors to come in, help out, snug it along, and, start picking up a return. But then enjoy the appreciation over the next, over the coming windfall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Let's kick it back to the group. Anybody's got questions? That's between, we talked about 2 completely different things this month. Next month, we'll try to slice this from some other directions too. It's one of those things that there's every idea is a good idea. Every idea is. Most are.
It's important for us to look at the asset class. Real property as an asset class. It's it's one of the largest asset classes. It's one of the largest asset classes on the planet. But in order for everybody to start to compete, you got to start looking at it from different angles. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, I saw the street come into the secondary market. So they've already eroded into that. But now, so if we're all there, now we all have the same problem. Now we all have to start managing assets. So it became very tiresome to go try to find the best asset. When you're at the bottom, if I can sell you a lot for $1, it's safe to say it's going to be worth $1.
Yeah. and how much can the taxes be on $1?
Right. But let me precipice that. But in these zones, you're more than likely. I can't speak to every other municipality, but specifically with Gary, in order to acquire one of those properties from the municipality, you are not signing a purchase agreement. You are signing a redevelopment agreement. Yes. You are agreeing that you will redevelop that lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Otherwise, why would they let it go? They're trying to.
Then it would just be a land grab, and the city would run out of people. Yeah.
Well. That was of course the first thing that came to my mind is, let me buy all the $100 lots I can.
Sometimes you never know.
Yeah. All right. Well, given that, we got anything else from anybody? Going once, going twice. Everybody should know how to get a hold of me since you joined the meetup. Everybody should know how to get a hold of Dion if you've been here before. If you want anything about this, or if you've got any ideas on things you'd like to talk about in future, that's what we're doing this for. 1 hour a month, so get your 2 cents in.
Oh, let me
Yep.
plug one more thing. On the,
Okay, since we're not selling anything.
No, but this is education, right? So
Yeah.
coming soon, and I plugged Steve in here. So there's some new features on Facebook. They're pretty cool. And so one of them is that you can create a educational agenda, and another one is you can mentor. So I've started to create this Facebook group. It's closed. You can't get in. Sorry. Because I'm developing it. But I put content. I'm starting to put educational content in here that's going to deal with investment real estate. So that's going to deal with all forms of that asset class. Seller financing, investing in loans. And I'll let you know when this comes out. But if you are experienced, I'm looking for contributors. This group will soon be open to the public. And so we need to put some more content. I have a lot. If any of you know me, I have 3,000 online posts. I've got a lot of content. It's taken me a minute to turn that back into readable educational material for you, but we're going to open it up. It'll be a free group. You can come research. The moderators will be guys like, Steve and I, so that we can keep the conversation and the education on point. And hopefully, build a good investor network of how to deal with all of the risks and issues that come with real property investing.
All right, good. Well, and I did not know that, so cool. All right, let's call it a night. It's late for you, Dion.
Yeah, I know. It's almost.
yeah, you do know. All right. All right. And again, anybody wants to talk about anything offline, we're here making friends. All right. So So thank you all for participating, and see you in March. All right. And I'll talk to you in the meantime. Bye. Bye.
So.